Hey everybody, Matt here, and I am live in the office at Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday, and excited because this week we are featuring one of our all-time best red hot deals. So every period we run a series of red hot deals, and they always get 20% off our base price. So it's always a fantastic thing. But one of the best that we've ever done is the one that we're currently on, which is this Basil Hayden. So like normally this would be like a $29.99, and right now we've got it on promotion for $23.99, which is like the best price I've ever seen in the last 15 years of being in this business. So anyway, Basil Hayden's interesting because it used to have an 8-year age statement on it. Jim Beam makes 2 mash bills. They're both, relatively speaking, low rye, but Basil Hayden and Old Granddad are actually the higher rye version of mash bills that Jim Beam makes. They're still rye-based mash bills, but anyway, Basil Hayden in depth today. I wanted to take a look at this whiskey because it's one that I think a lot of people who are into bourbon for a long time, they kind of overlook it because it's 80 proof, because it dropped its age statement. But it did all that, and it really gussied up its packaging and looks too. So it definitely took on a much higher end quality in terms of its packaging. But what I wanted to revisit this whiskey because, again, it's not one that I necessarily drink on a daily basis. And it's one that I would encourage people to check out again because, to call a bourbon light or, it doesn't, just because something is lighter or a lower proof doesn't mean that's worse flavor than a barrel proof. It doesn't mean that barrel proof is always the best flavor or 107 is always the best flavor. Sometimes you can get something that the right proof for it is 90 or 92 or 93, or in this case 80 proof. This is meant, maybe they would say that's meant to be sort of an introduction to bourbon, but I would say if you really like bourbon, you should taste broadly across all different types and then try to enjoy each type that is out there. So anyway, I want to take a look and revisit this bourbon, so I'll stop yapping and get to the tasting. Okay, so it used to be an 8-year, doesn't have an age statement on it now, so it's at least a 4-year. So it's probably somewhere in that 6.5-year range. But since they don't release it, it's hard to say. Nice sort of light copper, almost kind of gold, kind of a dirty gold color. So the first impression I get on the nose is this very intense passion fruit note, which is kind of a odd note. It's sort of a tropical fruit. It's almost to the point of overripe, but not quite overripe. And I think that's because of the yeast that Jim Beam uses, known for a proprietary, this sort of foxy aroma yeast, which tends to have this sort of yeastier smell, or this little bit of an earthier smell, if that makes sense. So it's got this nice passion fruit that's really ripe, and then right under that comes like honey, vanilla, some more traditional bourbon notes. I don't get a ton of oak on the nose, so I'm not getting like big spice bomb that you might normally get with like a high rye bourbon. You really get these nice, soft, tropical fruit notes. You get the passion fruit, you get that pineapple note, but then it really just kind of softens up into sort of fruit and vanilla. You don't get that big fig or orchard fruit or big, that kind of note. It's elegant, it's light, and for that, it can really be appreciated. Yeah, maybe just like a touch of leather, but more honey. And there's maybe like a slight kind of macadamia nut quality to it here. All right, let's taste it. Just such a pillowy, soft cloud, little puff of vanilla, and you get that tropical fruit. There's a touch of oak. Actually, some oak emerges, but not till the finish. This is just a very light, sweet, tropical, delightful bourbon to drink neat at 80 proof. And man, there's so much nice sort of complex sweetness and fruit going on here. Again, you're not getting the big kind of bruising notes as like a barrel proof 12-year whatever. You're getting the nice lighter notes. Light doesn't mean bad. It's just a different flavor. And for $23.99, I think this is a steal. And it's definitely one that, you know, if you've got a decanter in your house, most of the time you'd be serving guests out of a decanter. Maybe they're not all super seasoned bourbon drinkers. This would be a perfect decanter whiskey because it's always going to be delicious, light, and elegant. It's always going to show off some of the more kind of drinkable, easy drinking flavors that bourbons can sometimes have, as opposed to these big brawling things that, you know, you got to have a little seasoning on your palate to enjoy those sometimes. This, I think, without any seasoning, even like a new bourbon drinker, this would be a great one to have. Yeah, you could put an ice cube in it. You can make a cocktail with it. I wouldn't probably suggest that because if you take it slow and you sip it, you're not going to need that. You're not going to need or want that dilution because the flavor is so delicate. They're delicate flavors that are not going to like necessarily transform into something else. They're gonna die if an ice cube hits this. Drink it however you want, obviously, but you know, for me, for my money, this is light, sweet, perfect appetizer. This is you know, your guests just hit the house. You want a nice glass of this before you start eating. This is perfect for that. It's a nice host whiskey. That's the occasion for it. So if you haven't tried Basil Hayden, give it a shot. You're going to pick up that pineapple. You're going to pick up that passion fruit. You're going to pick up that honey. You're going to pick up that vanilla. You're going to get a touch of oak at the finish. But all in all, you're just going to get a really nice, relaxing, pleasant bourbon drinking experience. That's what this whiskey is all about. Nothing more, nothing less. Fantastic, and glad that, you know, it has survived multiple iterations in the Jim Beam small batch collection. Basil Hayden, 80 proof, non-age stated, $23.99 at Big Red. Cheers.